Hi everyone. Picture this. It's Saturday around lunch. It's 30 minutes until kickoff between Arsenal and Liverpool. You're about to head down to the pub to watch the game with your friends, but before you go, you want to place a bet at Arsenal winning 2-1. You go online and find out what bookmaker has the best odds. You go to the site just to realize that you don't have an account with them, and as you're in a short of time, you'd rather not go through a lengthy process to register. And instead, you go to the bookmaker that you used before. Sure, the odds are worse, but hey, time is also money, right? You find the bet you want to take, but as you're about to log in, you realize that you forgot the password. The forgotten password function leads you to a question about your first car brand. But for some reason, Volvo doesn't seem to be the right answer. You head off to the pub, and of course, Arsenal wins 2-1. If only the bookmakers you had visited were using Pay and Play. I'm Josef Darmark. I'm here today to speak about Trustly and our Pay and Play product. I'll touch upon it from the consumer perspective. I'll speak about the history and the product. And then I'll dig into the more technical aspects of Pay and Play from a merchant perspective and how you would integrate Pay and Play. Just before leaving, I'll speak about our latest innovation, the in-banner Pay and Play product. Starting off with Trustly and myself. So as I said, my name is Josef Darmark. I'm Chief Product Officer with Trustly. I've been with the company for 5 years and I manage our product portfolio. Trustly is a Stockholm-based payment provider. We were founded in 2008. We're a licensed payment institution regulated by the Swedish Financial Authority. We have a mandate to operate across Europe under the PSD2 license. We offer online payment services across all of Europe as well as in the US. We serve gaming, of course, but we also target financial services, e-com, travel, and the digital goods verticals. We process over 10 million payments per month, and we are over 400 employees across offices across the European continent, as well as in the US and in Brazil. And Trustly, we do bank payments. I guess you figured that out already. And bank payments is about making a transaction from the consumer's account to the merchant. And it's also about making a payout or a refund from the merchant back to the consumer. I'll show you just shortly the flow for our pay-in product, which would be the consumer comes to the select Trustly in the cashier. They would be presented with our flow. You would select which bank you bank with. We support some 4,000 banks in Europe and another 4,000 banks in the US. You select how you want to authenticate yourself towards the bank. In this example, it would be your social security number and a fingerprint. You authenticate yourself. You select which of the accounts you have with that bank you want to pay from. And you confirm the payment again in this step using your fingerprint. So this is the flow for our standard pay-in product. That's very shortly about Trustly. And now digging a little bit into Pay and Play from a consumer perspective and also touch upon the history and what we have today. So Pay and Play is really a bundle of some of our core products. So the deposit flow I showed you is of course an element of relevant part of our Pay and Play product, but we also add on our KYC product, which is us informing you as a merchant about who is making the transaction. And then we have the withdrawal part, which is about paying winning out to consumers that are kind of instantly available for the consumer on their bank account to either use again to make another deposit or leave for future use. And we launched Pay and Play 5 years ago. We started off in Sweden, and the next year we launched Finland. And that was also the year we went down to Malta to see the Maltese Gaming Authority to make sure that we had their approval on using our product to board new consumers as well as log in returning consumers on your account while in the same flow making a deposit. And they were all happy about the setup and the product we had. we continued to develop product, and in 2018 we launched our Pay and Play 2.0 version, which was about us sending KYC data to the merchant before the deposit is completed to give the merchant more control over who they want to accept money from. And we also launched Estonia in the end of 2018, and that was also the time when we got the approval from the Swedish Gaming Authority to use our product for the merchants. Last year we launched Pay and Play in Netherlands, and in the end of last year we also launched the in-banner Pay and Play product, which I'll come back to a little bit more in the end of this presentation. So today we're live across all these markets. We've seen a really strong uptake amongst consumers for merchants and brands basing their site on the Pay and Play technology. And the last part, and perhaps most importantly for you, and I guess this is why you're here, is for me to speak about how Pay and Play, what kind of benefits we add from the merchant perspective, and also how you would integrate Pay and Play. And then finally, I'll speak about the in-banner Pay and Play. So there's a couple of key things that you can take away when you look at integrating or deciding if you want to offer Pay and Play on your brands. We've seen plenty of examples where acquisition is greatly boosted or strengthened as we're able to increase conversion, and you'll get a much better kind of ROI on your costs for bringing merchants to your site. And this is because we bundle the flow where you register and make a deposit into a separate flow. Effectively, we're kind of taking away the part where you have to separately register to open up the account. Since we send information about who the consumer who's making the deposit is, so we send you name, first name, last name, address, date of birth. You get all the elements you need to register the account and identify who the consumer is. There's no need for a separate step to register. And this is, we all know, you heard it in the example in the beginning, it's the kind of conversion killer to have people register. No one comes to your site to register, they come there to play. And we allow them to do that instantly. We close the gap between inspiration and actually action. And that boosts acquisition. We also build loyalty with Pay and Play for a couple of reasons. One is that there's no need for the consumer to set up a separate username and password to access your site or to make a deposit on your site. We all know that, I mean, keeping track of all your usernames and passwords isn't the kind of preferred way of handling it, and a lot of sites have launched, log in with Google or log in with Facebook. With us, you identify yourself using the payment method, so there's no need at all to have a separate step to log in. And then what I already mentioned about having instant payouts. So if you're a consumer and you want to get your winnings out instantly, we have a great offering within the Pay and Play product where we're able to, across most of the markets in Europe, instantly top up the consumer's bank account, regardless if it's Monday morning or Friday evening or New Year's Eve. We do it, and literally within 30 seconds, the consumer will see the balance on the bank account being topped up. That builds loyalty and trust. And then the final part, which is actually one of the main things for us when we met with the Maltese Gaming Authority, is about staying compliant as a merchant. Today, and even more so historically, merchants were using manual processes and handling copies of various documents to confirm the identity or proof of identity from their consumers. These documents could be false, they could be bad copies, they could be borrowed by someone, and in the end, they're usually always based on something that the consumer gets from their bank, so a copy of the bank statement, for example. With the Pay and Play solution, we pass you the information that is registered with the bank via the API, so there's no possibility for someone to falsify those documents or use someone else's documents or steal documents and present them to you. Since we get that from our connection with the bank, we can present them to you in a format that no one are able to edit. So not only is this kind of more convenient from the user's perspective, not having to send something from your perspective, since you get it instantly and you don't have to handle kind of sensitive documents. And lastly, it's more secure because you get the information that's registered with the bank. That's kind of the key elements on why Pay and Play have been such a success. And on looking more into the technical aspects of this. So this is the Pay and Play 2.0 flow. The consumer would come to your site. They would select the game they want to play and click Play Now, or just click Play Now. You will send Trustly a deposit call with the flag saying that you want the KYC data first. We will respond back with the URL, which is the link to our iframe and our flow. You'll show the iframe to the user, and the user will select their bank and log in to this bank. But when they've done that, we have, through our connections with all these 4,000 banks across Europe, collected name, address, and date of birth of this consumer as that information is registered with the bank. We send that information to you. Based on that, you're able to determine if you want to continue with this transaction or abort. Reasons for abort could be that the user is already registered with you and have a block set up, or there's an amount limitation on how much they want to deposit, or you might have suspicious reasons to believe that this is a duplicate account or something else. You would abort the transaction by sending us a finish response. Or, which is typically the case, you would like to continue with the transaction and you would just send us continue. That took a minute to explain. It takes less than a second to do that flow in real time. The user is presented with their accounts. They select the account they want to pay from and authenticate the payment. At this time, we send you a credit notification, which is us telling you the payment is now complete, so you can please top up the balance on this player's account. We also send you an account notification, which contains an account ID, which you later on can use to make payouts to the specific bank account that was used in this flow. And in the end, the user got their money on their account and they're able to play. So this is, in essence, the Pay and Play 2.0 flow, both for kind of registration or for login. And just shortly on the KYC notification part, this is the kind of key element about who it is you're interacting with when the transaction happens. And it consists of a couple of elements that I'll just touch upon, which is important for you when you're looking to integrate Trustly. And one is the KYC entity ID, which is our unique identifier for consumers when there is no unique identifier available in said market. So in Sweden and Finland, there's a personal ID, which is unique for everyone. But in Germany, identity typically consists of address, date of birth, and name. So we create a unique identifier that also includes bank account information to make sure that this is a unique person. And then we also send you name, date of birth, address in clear text in this notification. So you can use that to kind of cross-check against lists you have on your side, whether that's people who have blocked themselves or if there's multiple accounts set up since before with the same information. You can either log in because you know it's the same person, or you can stop the transaction if you're not sure about who this is. And if there is, of course, a personal ID number, such as Sweden or Finland, we, of course, send you that unique identification in real text. So this is really the simplicity of Pay and Play. It's not more complex than this. And we've had operators who launched their whole concept and site based on Pay and Play because it greatly reduces the amount of work they have to do on their side. You don't need to build a registration form, and you don't need to build advanced duplicate account settings or filters. You don't need to build a flow for handling sensitive documents, etc. So from the technical point of view, Pay and Play greatly simplifies the journey you as a company have to take to start offering consumers from various countries to use your site. Before I leave you, I'll also speak shortly about in-banner Pay and Play. This is available to anyone who already have Pay and Play integrated, or will be available if you integrate Pay and Play. So in-banner Pay and Play effectively take the registration and deposit and also the placing of a bet into the banner And the banner can be hosted as a affiliate site or at a news site or as a live score site, or wherever you have your banners out on the internet, you can have the in-banner betting available. And we know it's a great driver of conversion because you move the whole registration or potentially login, the deposit and the placing a bet into the banner versus redirecting, logging in, making a deposit, and then placing a bet on the operator site. We've seen these numbers with merchants, and this is something that we have a strong belief will be something a lot of merchants will be rolling out. And to show you the flow, this is a typical affiliate site. There's an interactive banner on top, and there's an article about Arsenal against Leicester. The user would select the odds that presented in the banner. They will select the amount they want to bet and click place bet. When they've done that, our iframe will appear. The user will go through the normal deposit flow or pay and play flow. You select the bank. We send the KYC to the merchant. The merchant says that they want to continue. You select the account you want to pay from, and you click approve. Once you've done that, you've actually created the account or logged in. You've made the deposit, and all you have to do now is confirm you want to place the bet. So you click confirm bet, and you're done. And at this point, the merchant can direct the consumer to the merchant site, for example, where they are already logged in. They can see the bet in their bet history, and they can continue to place additional bets. Or you can imagine that you have a site where there's a football game on one part of the site, and next to it you have the live scores in the banner. And in those cases, you could have the user stay on the site where they're watching the game to continue place live bets in the banner just next to the game. The use cases are endless. I hope you found that interesting. And if you want to know more, I mean, I'm here, and we also have our whole accounts team and sales team happy to speak to you about both pay and play and also in-banner pay and play. Thank you for today.
Well, what a great presentation that we had there, covering some of the innovative technology that comes from pay and play, as presented by Trustly. Will now be followed up with a Q&A with Josef from Trustly. So, Josef, thank you so much for joining me on the line today.
Glad to be here.
So great presentation, first of all. I'm sure our viewers found it really informative. And I want to jump in and just ask some questions based on what you were discussing. First of all, when it comes to play and play and how it helps prevent duplicate accounts, can you give our viewers a little bit of context just regarding how this works?
Sure, yeah. So for me, coming from the gaming industry, I know the kind of duplicate account issues can be a major problem for a lot of operators from an AML perspective or security perspective, but also from a kind of bonus abuse perspective and so on. And the beauty of pay and play is that since we deliver the kind of identity of the payer before the transaction happens, you virtually don't have an issue with duplicate accounts anymore. If it's a returning customer, you simply log them in. You don't give them the option to open up another account. Whereas if it's a new customer, you open up a new account. And that's these unique accounts are based on social security number or a combination of address, date and birth and bank account number. So there's kind of no risk of duplicate accounts if you base your registration or login on pay and play.
And so following on from that, when it comes to the user experience, can the user journey in the iframe, can that actually be shortened as well?
Okay, so the journey when you come into our product is kind of based upon the journey that the bank offers their end users when they're making a payment. So it's not a journey that we kind of control the flows or the steps in. The steps are something we build based on what the bank is offering us. So we can't kind of shorten it without the bank offering a shorter user journey to their end user. What is good though and interesting for us as a kind of the future looking here, we have a lot of banks in Europe are rolling out PSD2 APIs, and when these APIs come out and function well, we'll be able to, in some cases, benefit with the flow. We only sign for one transaction or one strong customer authentication to complete the transaction. So we have positive view on the future on this, but as we kind of stand today, it's kind of linked to what the bank is allowing us to do.
And it seems like a fairly smooth and a fairly fast process as well. So can you talk our viewers through, from like a merchant standpoint, what their perspective is and what the feedback has been?
Sure. So I think, I guess the kind of history of pay and play speaks for itself in terms of how merchants appreciate this. Over the last years, we rolled this out with over 100 different merchants. It's one kind of interesting, anecdote or view on this is when we launched pay and play, we had a lot of discussions with kind of large merchants, but we ended up launching this with minor merchants. And I think it's one of the key points here is that integrating pay and play is easy, and there is we've had merchants who literally had 5 people on their side in the whole company, and they launched pay and play targeting a market. So it's easy to integrate, and it solves a lot of the technical considerations you will otherwise have to make. For example, how you register, you take away that step, so your site becomes easier to build.
Fantastic. So now from a technical perspective, are you able to give us the main points that are really beneficial from pay and play?
Yeah, so I think kind of the main value that pay and play adds from the technical perspective is well, of course, kind of integrating pay and play is fairly easy, and with our pay and play 2.0 flow, you as a merchant get full control over who the user is. But otherwise, I think the main value of this is that a lot of the kind of requirements and regulations that gaming companies have to follow includes integrating a registration process or integrating third-party providers to confirm identities and so on. So it doesn't perhaps link to the specific pay and play integration, but the fact that you're basing your product on pay and play means you don't have to do a lot of other technical integrations and considerations you would otherwise have to do. So I think major benefit of pay and play is that it reduces your need to build a big tech department or to build a lot of complex systems, because we do that on our end.
And when it comes to the solutions that you've offered, because you've given us a really clear overview of what can be provided, are your solutions, are they also available to third parties as well to implement? Yeah, so you can integrate pay and play in various ways. So a lot of our merchants integrate directly to Trustly. Other merchants partner with a PSP, and they might have other sites with other payment solutions, and they might have a partner that integrates these payment solutions. And yes, you can launch pay and play through a technical or account servicing payment service provider. So we have a broad support for various PSPs, if that's the preferred way for you to integrate Trustly. Fantastic. Well, Josef, thank you so much. You've certainly given us a lot of information to take away. Thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it here at SiGMA.